Comfort is a dangerous thing. It convinces us that tomorrow will look like today. In a quiet English countryside, a community lived by familiar routines. Same tunnels, same paths, same belief that safety was permanent. Then one voice sensed something was wrong. Not proof, not evidence, just a warning. And everything depended on whether anyone listened. When life feels stable, creatures stop asking questions. They stop imagining disaster. They stop listening to quiet warnings. This was the case in a peaceful English countryside where a group of rabbits lived in a well-established warren. Generations had been born there. Generations had died there. The tunnels were familiar, the routines unchanged, and the grass always seemed to grow back. To the rabbits, this place felt permanent. But permanence is an illusion. Among them lived a small rabbit named Fiver. He was not admired. He was not strong. Other rabbits thought of him as nervous and strange. Yet Fiver possessed something rare and dangerous. He sensed the future. Not clearly, not with words, but through intense feelings and images that struck him like lightning. One day, while sitting quietly, Fiver was overwhelmed by terror. The ground itself felt wrong. In his mind, he saw death. He saw the land torn open, soaked with blood, filled with screaming. The warren would be destroyed. Fiver did not hesitate. He ran to his older brother, Hazel. Hazel was not a leader yet, but he was thoughtful, patient, and calm. When Fiver spoke, Hazel listened. He didn't mock him. He didn't dismiss him. He felt the weight of the warning settle into his own mind. Fiver begged him to leave, to run, to survive. Hazel looked around at the peaceful warren and realized something frightening. Danger does not announce itself loudly. It arrives quietly while everyone is distracted by comfort. That moment, listening instead of ignoring, was the true beginning of everything that followed. Hazel believed Fiver, but belief alone was not enough. If the warren truly faced destruction, others needed to know. Together, the brothers approached the ruling rabbits, the ones who maintained order and tradition. Hazel spoke carefully, respectfully. Fiver explained his vision, his fear, his certainty that something terrible was coming. The leaders listened, and then they smiled. They looked around at the full fields, the busy tunnels, the calm rhythm of daily life. They saw no machines, no predators, no immediate threat. To them, Fiver's fear was imaginary, a nuisance, something that disturbed peace. They chose the easiest explanation. They said the warren was safe. They said it always had been. They said fear was more dangerous than ignorance. And in doing so, they revealed the greatest weakness of leadership, the refusal to accept uncomfortable truths. Hazel realized something painful in that moment. Leaders who benefit from stability often fear change more than destruction. They protect the present even when the future is clearly collapsing. The warning was rejected. Hazel and Fiver were dismissed. That night, Hazel lay awake underground, listening to the quiet breathing of the warren. Everything seemed normal. That was what made it terrifying. Disaster does not look dramatic until it is unavoidable. Hazel understood then that staying meant obedience, and obedience meant death. He could not force others to leave. He could only choose for himself. And so he made a decision that most never have the courage to make. He would walk away from safety before it became a grave. Leaving is harder than staying. Staying requires no courage. It requires only denial. Leaving demands responsibility, uncertainty, and the acceptance that you may be wrong, but will die if you are right and do nothing. Hazel began quietly speaking to other rabbits. Not everyone, only those who seemed restless, curious, or uneasy. He did not promise safety. He did not exaggerate danger. He simply said the truth. The warren felt wrong, and he was leaving. Some laughed. Some were angry. Some were too afraid to imagine life beyond the tunnels. But a few listened. A small group gathered rabbits with different strengths and personalities. They did not know each other well, but they shared one thing: the courage to abandon certainty. As night fell, Hazel led them away from the warren. No ceremony, no farewell, just movement into darkness. Above ground, the world felt enormous. There were no walls, no tunnels, no familiar smells. The open sky felt like exposure rather than freedom. Every sound was louder. Every shadow felt dangerous. Behind them was safety that might not last. Ahead of them was danger that was guaranteed. Yet as Hazel looked back one final time, he understood something deeply human. The most dangerous prisons are the ones we refuse to escape. They moved forward, not because they were brave, but because staying would have been surrender. The outside world was not welcoming. Grass did not grow evenly. Shelter was rare. Predators moved silently. Every mistake could mean death. For rabbits raised underground, the openness was terrifying. There were no tunnels to retreat into, no guaranteed safety. They crossed fields where hawks circled above. They froze at every rustle. Hunger became real, sharp, and constant. Then came the road, a flat strip of stone where monsters screamed past, faster than any creature could run. The rabbits hesitated, frozen in fear. Hazel watched carefully, waiting, thinking. Timing mattered. Trust mattered. They crossed, barely. Later, they reached a river, cold, fast, unforgiving. Some nearly drowned. Panic spread, but they survived, shaken and exhausted. Every challenge stripped away illusion. They were no longer sheltered creatures of routine. They were survivors. Hazel noticed something important during these trials. Leadership was not about giving orders. It was about remaining calm when others panicked. It was about seeing solutions instead of fear. He encouraged others to use their strengths. Speed, cleverness, bravery, everyone mattered. Slowly, trust formed. Not because Hazel demanded it, but because he earned it. Danger followed them everywhere, but so did growth. With each challenge, they became less like frightened rabbits and more like a group with purpose. The journey was changing them, and there was no going back. Night was the worst. When the world went quiet, fear became loud. In darkness, imagination turns against the mind. The rabbits huddled together, listening to unfamiliar sounds, wondering if morning would come. That was when Dandelion spoke. He told stories. Not simple distractions, but ancient tales of El Ahraira, the legendary rabbit hero. El Ahraira was small, hunted, and clever. He survived not by strength, but by intelligence and adaptability. These stories mattered. They reminded the group that survival was possible, that weakness did not mean failure, that intelligence could defeat power. Stories gave meaning to suffering. They turned fear into identity. They connected the rabbits to something larger than the present danger. Hazel understood their importance immediately. Stories are not entertainment during crisis, they are structure. They give the mind a shape to hold on to when reality feels chaotic. Through stories, the group stopped being just refugees. They became a community, a people with shared memory and purpose. In the darkness, while predators moved unseen, hope quietly grew. And hope, when everything else is stripped away, becomes strength. After long hardship, the rabbits discovered another warren. It looked perfect. Food was abundant. Shelter was secure. The rabbits there lived calmly, without fear or urgency. There were no guards, no constant watch for predators. Life seemed effortless. But something felt wrong. Fiver sensed it immediately. Hazel noticed small details: the lack of curiosity, the strange acceptance of disappearances, the silence around difficult questions. Rabbits would leave and never return. No one spoke of it. The truth was horrifying. Humans provided food, but also death. Comfort was bait. Safety was conditional. The rabbits lived longer than wild ones, But without freedom, without awareness, without control over their fate, Hazel faced another decision: stay and survive longer, or leave and live fully. He did not hesitate. He gathered his group and explained everything. This time, they understood. They had already tasted freedom. They knew its value. They left again, not because the danger was greater outside, but because captivity, even comfortable captivity, destroys the soul. After weeks of exhaustion, hunger, fear, and loss, the rabbits finally reached a high hill rising above the countryside. The wind moved freely there, carrying unfamiliar smells and distant sounds. The land was not soft or forgiving. It was open, exposed, and difficult to defend, yet something about it felt right. This place was called Watership Down. Unlike the warrens they had known before, this land did not offer easy comfort. The soil was hard in places. The weather was unpredictable. Predators could see them if they were careless. But what this place offered was something far more valuable than safety. It offered choice. Here, no one controlled them. No invisible traps waited beneath the grass. No authority decided who lived comfortably and who disappeared. Every tunnel they dug was a decision they made together. Every chamber represented trust rather than fear. Hazel watched as the group worked. There were disagreements, mistakes, moments of doubt, but there was also cooperation. Strong rabbits helped weaker ones. Fast rabbits scouted. Clever rabbits planned. Everyone mattered. This was not a warren built on obedience. It was a warren built on responsibility. For the first time, Hazel realized they were not simply survivors anymore. They were creators of their own future. Fear still existed, but it no longer ruled them. Instead of hiding from danger, they prepared for it. Watership Down became more than a location. It became a symbol, a place where freedom was not given, but earned every day. Not far from Watership Down lived another group of rabbits. Their warren was efficient, organized, and powerful. It was ruled by a single figure whose name carried fear: General Woundwort. Woundwort was everything Hazel was not. He ruled through strength, through intimidation, through absolute authority. In his warren, survival came at a price. There was no questioning orders, no individual decision-making. Rabbits lived because they obeyed. They ate because they complied. Fear was the foundation of stability, and fear worked. The warrens survived predators. It expanded territory. It eliminated weakness. From the outside, it looked strong. But strength built on fear is fragile. When Woundwort learned of Watership Down, he felt something dangerous. Threat. A free society nearby challenged his rule simply by existing. If rabbits could live without control, without punishment, without force, then his authority was exposed as unnecessary. Woundwort sent demands: submission, obedience, control. Hazel listened carefully and refused. Not loudly, not aggressively, just firmly. Freedom does not negotiate its existence. This refusal was not just an act of defiance, it was a declaration of values. Hazel chose risk over surrender, and Woundwort, who only understood power, prepared for violence. Because tyrants do not fear rebellion. They fear example. The threat of war changed everything. Hazel gathered his rabbits and spoke honestly. He did not promise victory. He did not hide the danger. He told them the truth. Woundwort was stronger, more disciplined, and more experienced in violence. But Hazel understood something Woundwort never could. Power is not the same as unity. Hazel planned carefully. They would not fight directly. They would not rely on strength. Instead, they would rely on intelligence, cooperation, and adaptability, the same qualities that had carried them this far. Every rabbit had a role. Scouts watched movement. Messengers coordinated actions. Defenders prepared escape routes. Fear was present, but it did not paralyze them. They had chosen this life knowing danger was part of freedom. When the conflict finally arrived, it was chaotic, confusing, terrifying. There were no heroic speeches, no glorious charges, only quick decisions, narrow escapes, and constant uncertainty. Woundwort fought with fury. His rule had taught him that fear wins battles. But fear has limits. Hazel's rabbits trusted one another. They adapted when plans failed. They protected each other instead of sacrificing the weak. Slowly, the balance shifted. Not because Hazel's group was stronger, but because they were together. Fear-based power depends on one thing: belief. As long as followers believe the leader is invincible, the system survives. The moment doubt enters, everything begins to fracture. Woundwort fought fiercely, but something unexpected happened. His rabbits hesitated. They had been trained to obey, not to think. When confusion spread, fear no longer unified them, it isolated them. Hazel's rabbits, however, adapted. They communicated. They supported one another. They changed strategy when needed. The difference was clear. Control creates order, but it kills resilience. Freedom creates chaos, but it breeds strength. Woundwort's authority collapsed under pressure. His power had never been shared, and so it could not be sustained. When the conflict ended, there was no celebration, no victory cries, only relief. Watership Down remained free, not because it defeated an enemy, but because it refused to become one. Hazel never claimed authority after the conflict. He did not demand loyalty. He did not establish dominance. He simply continued doing what he had always done. He listened. He protected the vulnerable. He trusted others to lead when they were best suited. Under his guidance, Watership Down grew not into an empire, but into a stable, living community. Disagreements were resolved through discussion. Fear was acknowledged, not suppressed. Hazel understood leadership was not about control. It was about responsibility. And because he never sought power, power never corrupted him. This was his greatest strength. Time passed, as it always does. Hazel grew older, slower, weaker, but he had no regrets. He had listened when others ignored warnings. He had chosen freedom over comfort. He had protected others instead of ruling them. When the black rabbit finally came for him, Hazel was not afraid. He had lived fully. He followed peacefully, knowing Watership Down would continue without him. That is the mark of true leadership. Watership Down is not a story about animals. It is a story about people. It is about societies that choose comfort over truth. It is about leaders who fear change. It is about freedom that demands courage. It asks a simple question: if you knew destruction was coming, would you stay comfortable or would you leave? Hazel's story reminds us that leadership is service, not dominance, that safety without freedom is a prison, and that listening to uncomfortable truths may be the most important survival skill of all. This story endures because it reflects reality, and reality demands choice. If this story moved you, challenged you, or made you think differently about freedom and leadership, don't let it end here. Like this video to support meaningful storytelling. Subscribe for more deep, cinematic stories like this. Comment below, would you have stayed? Or would you have left the warren? And remember, sometimes the bravest decision you'll ever make is walking away from comfort before it becomes your cage.